911, what's your emergency?
I'm freaking out. I can't stop watching these videos. This guy won't let me turn it off.
Sir, what are you talking about?
He's this big bald guy. He's raising his hands up in the shape of horns. What is that about?
Oh boy, we've got a code 666.
What the hell is that?
Mother, man.
Welcome back to another episode of 666 Seconds of Murder. That means that each of these videos should be less than 11 minutes and 6 seconds or 666 seconds. So hang on for a white knuckle trip with me as we hurry through the information and get you on your way. Now take a moment, if you will, to hit that like button. If you're not a sub already, please consider subscribing before you go and leave a comment as well. All those things are free ways that you can help the channel grow, and thanks to everybody that does that. Now, all of us following the Idaho 4 case have likely struggled with the idea that the police could have somehow been involved here. Now, for me, I don't like being critical of the police. I want to believe that they're doing good and keeping trash off the streets. But in this case, as well as some others recently, like Delphi, it seems that the integrity of the blue wall is not doing itself any favors. Now, even in the Moscow-Pullman area, with incidents like Stickergate with the Church of Christ, and 2 Moscow police officers lied about questioning a minor in that one. And one of those officers was Officer Nunez, who was, of course, the first one at the scene after that 11:56 a.m. 911 call. Now, personally, I believe that, the police were there much sooner, but, why didn't Nunez use his siren? You don't hear any sirens at all in that 911 call. That seems suspicious to me. Now, you've got a lot of bad stuff that went on in Pullman, Washington with the police department there, and emptied out much of their upper ranks with some accusation of SA with subjects and other despicable things. Oddly, the chief of police at Pullman was the one who interviewed Koberger that summer after Brian moved there in the summer of 2022. Now, that same chief resigned from Pullman a month or so after that interview and then became the chief at the WSU campus police department. That same department found Brian's Elantra at the Steptoe Apartments in Pullman. Funny how that works out. And I've said it from the beginning. I think the origins of his problems out there stem from the people in Pullman, Washington at the police departments. Now, if you want to add the Brent Kopacka situation into the conversation here, then let's do it. I think that the WSU officers that responded to the call that Brent was holding roommates hostage, now that's a guy with a history of PTSD, lots of bad narcotic usage, and I think they thought all that stuff, and they came in a bit hot. They're also on the edge after the Moscow crimes that could have led to them ending Brent's life with a bullet. Now, there is plenty of controversy surrounding the passing of Brent Kopacka about 1 month after the crimes in Moscow. So was he involved? Could he have been swatted by people who did want him to talk about any involvement? Swatting is when you call like the police and say somebody's, in a hostage situation, so they come in there and hopefully end their life, and nobody knows, why. And that seems to fit this situation here almost exactly. Now, with all these things that happened in the area with law enforcement, do you honestly think that something like this could be going on with the Idaho 4? I mean, I'd say the smart money is on that they were at least a couple on the payroll to keep this a party house rocking every night and to keep an eye on the prize for someone higher than them. Maybe a mid-level cartel rep or dealers in the area. Maybe Emma and Demetrius, who knows? Okay. But this crime needed more than a couple people. So it's likely more green stuff got passed around to keep it quiet. Now, I believe the crimes happened between 2:10 and 3:10 a.m. And with a quick change into different clothes and bagging up the dirty stuff, might have taken 5 to 10 minutes. And then they'd be on their way. But of course, the state is saying the crimes happened between 4:05 and 4:20 a.m. That's an awfully tight window to squeeze all that through with one person. But that's the hill that they've decided to defend. So now let's go back to that 911 call. It's full of holes and things that point to it being a rehearsed performance by 4 college students: Dylan, Bethany, Hunter Johnson, and his girlfriend, Emily. As I stated before, the fact that we don't hear any sirens at all is very suspicious. We don't hear anything like church bells. I mean, do they go off at noon on a Sunday? I don't know. In the small town I live in, we have a noon alarm that goes off every day, and that's supposedly to let the farmers know it's time for lunch, or at least that's what I've been told. Kind of a tradition type thing. Now, Officer Nunez is the first to the scene, and remember, one of the 2 behind the Stickergate drama. Search for that on YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's kind of goofy, but he does some shady stuff. Now, we heard that the Moscow PD had that scene buttoned up quick and weren't letting anyone inside. Even the EMTs that showed up at King Road were turned away. An EMT in this very community had commented on one of my recent videos and said that that never happens, that the police never turn away somebody coming there to give them a hand. So what if they were doing that because someone was still alive? Or could it be the reason to turn them away was because they wanted to let that person expire? I mean, it's sick to think, but why else would they have turned them away? Now, how do you explain all these delays here? First, we have the 8-hour delay, or more like 9 or 10, if you believe my theory, in calling 911 in the first place. And that's got everybody baffled about this case. Now we add 4.5 to 5 hours before Detective Brett Payne shows up on his white horse to save the day. What was he doing that he couldn't make it to the biggest homicide in Idaho history, at least in media attention? I mean, he couldn't get there any faster than that. The standard in most police departments is within the hour. If Brett Payne had a legitimate reason to not be there sooner, then another detective should have been there in his place. Every minute that goes by compromises the scene. We've already seen 13 hours pass since Dylan's account from the attacks happening just after 4 a.m. until Payne gets there. So 13 hours now. Then the coroner, Kathy Mabbitt, she arrives at about 6 p.m. That's about 14 hours past 4 a.m., the alleged time that these crimes went down. The degradation of evidence that went on is an absolute disgrace, not to mention all the people that were there when the police arrived. It was more than just those 4 that called 911. I mean, how many of them had walked around inside? What were Dylan and Bethany taking pictures of and sending out in those early morning hours before 911 got called? Were their pictures taken as proof of death? Or were they taken to get advice on how to clean things up? Or to show the cleanup crew what they were up against? Who knows? But after noon, when the only people in that house were the Moscow PD officers, maybe some FBI, what exactly was going on? Was a plan being hatched to cover this up so as not to compromise the biggest party favor bust in Washington state history that went on just a few months after this? I've heard there were 30 to 40 agents in the area at the time. So I also wonder if these crimes are a way of keeping secrets about the house. What lengths would law enforcement go to cover up something? I guess that depends on what they're covering up, who wants it done, and how much they're willing to pay for it to go away. Those 6 hours could have been quite a business meeting. Now, some have said the crime scene was staged in the Idaho 4. I believe that it was. I think whoever did these crimes were sick individuals that may have further desecrated the bodies to put them in embarrassing poses. This has been done countless times in cases like the Gainesville Ripper, Danny Rolling, or Bind, Torture, Kill, BTK, Mr. Dennis Rader. These cases all involved some sort of posing of the victims. But in this case, I've also thought if any of the victims were outside the house, then someone would have brought them in and then posed them to change the details of what went on to throw investigators off. I mean, could this be what was going on for 6 hours before the coroner showed up to pronounce them deceased? 14 hours later? Unbelievable. Now, to me, the fact that we hear no mention of the messy crime scene during that 911 call or any of the smells, but then Kathy Mabbitt 6 hours later says it was one of the worst crime scenes she'd ever seen. That draws a lot of side eye from me. How is that possible? Someone has to be lying. Could it be the college kids at noon or the coroner at 6 p.m.? Which one is telling the truth? Or are they both acting like puppets for the puppet master to use as they wish? I'll tell you what, those interviews Kathy Mabbitt did, she looked very, very nervous. And I don't believe anything that she says, unfortunately. Now, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this one. So please leave a comment below to help the channel. And don't forget about hitting that like button and subscribing before you go. And if you want to leave a tip, you can get me a cup of coffee. There's a creeper at the bottom with information about that. I'd like to thank all the members of the Horns High Club and the Mayhem Squad for their support as members. And you guys can join the membership if you want and get a VIP Murder Metal Mayhem experience. There's a link in the channel description, so you can do that if you want. And I'll see you next time.